It's the Infectious Groove Podcast, recorded at the 33 and 3rd Music Appreciation Center in Speakeasy, just outside of Detroit, Michigan. The Infectious Groove Podcast is your source for jammy jams, music news, and the best in-depth music discussion. Now here's your host.
Well, hello there. It's Season 2, Episode 2, and Take 2 of Episode 2.
There was a spider!
Because,
we had an arachnid incident.
We had a false start a second ago because there was a spider near Michelle's microphone, and I don't want to overstate this, but it was the end of the world. Yes?
It almost touched me.
It certainly appeared to be the end of the world.
Very, very close to being the end of the world. So anyways, we had a wonderful start to Season 2 that we're really, really happy with. The episode that Aaron Ruby joined us for was absolutely fantastic. We had a great time making it, and the reaction, I think it's like the fastest listened episode that we've had so far.
Probably because Aaron Ruby's not even in a big band.
Right, so. I know, like that. And then later, late last week, because if you listen to the episode, he kept saying that, like how they weren't that big of a deal. And then later in the week last week, I was able to post a video of them playing to like 100,000 very engaged fans.
Yeah.
You know, the whole like...
Nobody was falling asleep.
One of their official music videos is them playing to a huge, giant crowd.
Right,
and I was
exactly.
Like, okay, not a big deal. I see.
Yeah. So, I think it was, if I'm tracking, if I remember all the tracking right, it was one of the fastest listened to episodes we've had so far, which is pretty sweet. So this week we're going to be talking about one of the topics that is kind of the reason why, or one of the main themes behind this show, and like why I've always wanted to do it, was because there's so much negativity out on the internet, like in general, and almost everywhere you look, there's like the 10 most overrated movies of all time, or, you know, the 10 most overrated tours. And, like, I don't know, to me, underrated is far more interesting than overrated. Like, we can all sit around and poke fun at anything.
There's no more good music on the internet anymore.
Well, and that's the other one, is you get people saying that all the time. Like,
yeah.
Oh, there's no good music. Like, no, I firmly believe you just haven't looked hard enough for it. So, having said that, the main topic for discussion this time around is going to be underrated albums, songs, and artists. I don't actually have any individual songs, I don't think, but I sure have a whole lot of underrated albums and artists that I want to talk about. So, this should be pretty fun. Real quick before we get into our usual segments, I want to mention all of our socials and support. So you can find us on Instagram at Infectious Groove Pod, Facebook at Infectious Groove Pod. Twitter is a little different, Infectious_pod. You can support us directly at anchor.fm/Infectious Groove Podcast. And we now have InfectiousGroovePodcast.com.
Hit up that .com,
where you can go there and send a complaint directly to Michelle. And I really want to get to a point where people start leaving like messages and stuff on there, and then we can add another segment where we just read off, whether it's complaints or not, you know, whatever anybody...
Would it be a message board?
No. I so much can't deal with that in life. I do not have the mental capacity for that. So, but anyways, yeah. So if you're hearing this and you really want to leave us a message, you can do so at any of those places. But the easiest one by far is InfectiousGroupPodcast.com, and just click on in the upper right corner. There's a menu pops down, and you can leave us a message. So,
music news.
Moving along, Kyle, what music news or lack of music news was there this week?
This is a perfect example of why I try and stay off of the internet, because
you don't do a very good job.
I just get angry when I see stuff that literally makes no sense because people don't look into things any further than seeing something.
And by things making no sense and people not understanding, you're of course referring to the Video Music Awards.
Yes, and oh my God, did you hear that The Weeknd showed up with a bruised face?
I did hear that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I did too. What's he thinking?
Yeah, now beyond that, maybe he was still in character from the recent album that he released, which he looks exactly the same in all of his music videos, and in general, he was just in character, people. That's all.
Yeah. And
just in character.
What's funny is, in discussing, really the only music news I know of that happened last week was the VMAs happening. And the VMAs used to be such a freaking awesome experience, and they've become so shallow that neither of us could even think of anything noteworthy that happened, other than people misunderstanding.
Yeah, it like maybe he was trying to like breathe life back into it, like to make it interesting again.
No.
And then everyone just thinks that, I don't know, maybe he got beat up by the police before he got there. I have no idea.
Yeah,
it was just dumb. And
I think it was a lot of clickbait too, because every article that I saw, it was like, "Why was the Weeknd bruised at the VMAs?" And then you click on it, and they're like, "Oh, because he was in character."
Yeah.
And I was like,
or if he said right on stage that he was in character, it'll be like, "The Weeknd reveals why he was in." I want badly for that word to be taken away from journalists. Reveals.
Yeah, there was a lot of people who didn't even know who he was, and I feel like even if you don't even listen to The Weeknd, there's no way that you don't know who he is.
Isn't he the #1 artist on Spotify?
I think when we looked it up, he was. Yes.
Yeah.
I thought Justin Bieber was going to be. Remember?
Yeah.
And it was The Weeknd.
But yeah, so it's a bummer that the VMAs happened and nothing of note came out of it, and it's an even bigger bummer that, yet again, people didn't understand something to do with art.
Yeah, and that sucks for him because he was really trying to do something to obviously cause a stir, which it did, but in the wrong way. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I always use this quote, but Tommy Lee Jones from Men in Black, the first one, like, a person is smart, but people are dumb. You know? And so, like, you looking at that is one thing, and then a bunch of people looking at that as a whole.
There was one article, they were all the same, like, the clickbait stuff. There was one I clicked on, and then all these comments came up, and so I literally I had to get it out of my system. I made one comment, and it said, "God damn it, he was in character. How is this something you're even writing an article about?"
So it's funny that you say that because, and I think I'm going to talk about it in the second half of the show, but I have a whole album to talk about where a person was in character and
I know exactly what you're referring to.
And people wrote a bunch, like literal music journalists wrote articles being like, "I don't get this," and it's like, well, you get paid to. Well, you know,
figure it out.
Yeah. So anyways, we'll move along. Our jammies. I actually don't have a ton to share for our Jammy Jams this week because when we get into the main topic, I'm going to gush about this particular band a ton, pretty much right off the top. But it's been a big Black Crowes week for me. Like, pretty much any time I've had access to music listening, I've been listening to the Black Crowes, and they're just, and again, I'm going to stop myself because I'm about to go on about them and hear in a minute, but they have 7 studio records, and 6 of the 7 are just brilliant. Like, the last one is, you can hear the band breaking up. Mm-hmm. Like, you can hear them being like, "Oh, I want to do this, I want to do this," and it's just a mess, you know. But every record leading up to that is damn near better than the last one. So Black Crowes is one of those few bands that I can put on. I could even just look them up on Spotify and hit shuffle, and nearly every single thing that plays, I'm like, "Oh, this is my jam." You know, "Oh, this is my jam." Like, I can't do that with GNR. Like, they have enough material that I would be skipping. You know,
really?
They only have 5 records, and I would still skip GNR songs. And Floyd, I can't do that with because a lot of it is connected and narrative.
Yeah, they go together.
Yeah, so if, like, you know, a song comes up that's like the second half of something else, I'm like, you know, so I can't really do that. So with the Crowes, damn near anything that comes up, I can just leave it go and be real happy about it. Unless their last album's called Warpaint, and anything except for the first song on that comes up and I'm skipping it. But everything else I'm good with. So, Michelle, will you please tell everybody what your Jammy Jams are?
I will.
Oh, sweet.
This week's been a slow music week for me. We were out of town, so there wasn't a lot of jamming to be had. But when I was jamming out, I would just put on a... Kyle and I have a shared playlist of songs, which is what I got a lot of inspiration for the topic this week. So that's what I've been listening to. It's not... I don't want to spoil it. There's a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is in my my list of artists that people need to check out. So
right on. Cool. Yeah, I kind of thought that going into this. I was like, I bet that our Jammy Jams is going to be a lot of like, well, hold on, we're going to talk about it in a minute.
Yeah. But it's a lot of... our playlist goes from, you know, everything from rap to folk to country to everything. So
right on.
It's a lot of stuff.
Cool. Kyle, do you have anything that you have to share that is not part of the underrated artists and stuff? Anything you've been listening to?
I do.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Big Sean released an album called Detroit 2, and it is fucking fantastic.
That's
he from
good.
Detroit?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he sure is.
He sure is. Oh, boy.
Yeah, sure is. Sure is. Go on.
But yeah, I'm a sucker for interludes, and he definitely includes some they're actually like what he says. They're stories. So there's one that's Dave Chappelle talking about Detroit, Erykah Badu talking about Detroit, and Stevie Wonder talking about Detroit.
Right on.
And it's just like them telling a story about because Stevie Wonder grew up here, so it talks about him growing up here and growing up blind and whatnot. But like it is. The whole thing is great, and there was a delightful surprise at the end, which I did not know was on there. There's a song called Friday Night, and it gets set up kind of like a cipher. So it's just it's a bunch of like unknown, underrated rappers from Detroit.
That's cool.
And then at the end is the more like high profile one. So at the end it's Royce da 5'9", and then Eminem is at the end.
Nice.
And I was like, holy shit! Like this is awesome.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah, but I would encourage anybody to go check it out. It's awesome.
And unfortunately, probably a future underrated album to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: I haven't heard anything about this record yet, and I usually would have at least heard, that it was out, or it would have made some
came
sort
out
of
this week.
I think yes.
Yeah, so it's at least been.
It's also a sequel. Well, not the sequel, but there is Detroit in the album, and then there's Detroit 2, which is the one that just came out.
Are they one right after another?
No.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the Eminem, the Marshall Mathers LP was like 20 years apart.
Yeah, no, I just was curious if it was just a continuation of his last record.
Right on. So that, the Jammy Jams this week, save for Big Sean, pretty much takes us into the main topic. So let's go.
It's time for the Infectious Groove Podcast main topic of discussion.
And it's funny, when we don't have a guest, we get to the main topic so much faster because we don't have any of the getting to know you part. At the beginning.
Or a fourth person trying to tell us their jammy jams.
Yeah, or a fourth person trying to tell you what to do. So let me start here, and I think I know the answer for you, Michelle, on this question, but I'm going to ask you, Kyle, I'm going to ask you first because I think I know her answer. Do you care if something that you like is overrated, or are you just like, look, I know this is great, and whether or not everyone else does, I don't care?
Yeah, I'm very much like if I think this is great, it's great. I really don't care what anybody else thinks.
Okay. And Michelle, I feel like I know that you don't care.
I don't care.
Yeah, not at all. Okay.
Not at all.
So I've been of two minds about this over the years. Like sometimes, like especially if somebody says, like, oh, that band's terrible, and they're totally off the mark. Like they don't have any idea what that band's like really about or whatever else. I'm always want to be like,
do you even get it?
Yeah, like you really need to.
Do you even listen, bro?
You need to hear more of that or whatever. But then the other thing, the reason why I care now is because of what we were talking about before with like seemingly everyone is like, oh, there's nothing good out there. And I want to be like, oh, yes, there is. Like, what are you into? Oh, I like this, and this. Okay, well, then you need to be listening to this too.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people too are stuck in their ways and they don't care.
Yeah.
If there's new stuff out there, they're still going to be listening to the same record over and over again, which is fine too, but
yeah,
sometimes new is nice.
And then, and the other thing that I think about too is with like Prince, and I've touched on this on the show before, where since Prince passed, everybody wants to go on about how, like, oh, they got to empty the vault. Like, I want to hear everything in the vault. That dude put out, I don't know, like 20 records in the last 20 years that no one bothered to listen to.
Yeah.
So it's like, well,
what are you hoping is in there?
Yeah, well, like, why don't you dig into what's readily available, before you move on? So now you might say otherwise, and actually this kind of colors your previous answer. Have you ever tried to sell someone on an album, a band, or a song?
Yeah.
Okay, so going back then, you say you don't care if anybody likes, but then why have you tried to sell people on a... I'm not being competitive.
No.
I'm combative, rather.
Come at me, bro.
Yeah.
I just like to spread the good word. I like to go...
So you do
spread the
care.
gospel.
I don't care if people like the same things that I like, or if they think that what I like is garbage, but like I'm going to tell you what to listen to,
right?
Because I feel like that's
tell
my
people
job.
What to do.
I'm going to tell people what to do, and I hope that you enjoy it. Like I just really like to sell bands that I like, like get more people involved. But like
two that come to my mind for sure is the Lone Bellow and Brand New.
Yeah, Brand New not so much anymore because they're not.
Yeah, but you did it one time.
Oh yeah,
except for Daisy.
We don't talk about
their best
that
album because it sells itself.
Brand New was like a huge band though. Like who were you trying to sell?
Yeah, but at one
to?
time they really weren't. Plus, she was trying to sell them to people like me that really didn't like the genre.
No, seriously, like it was just a lot of people who, emo was just for those emo kids who, I don't. Say nothing nice. Yes, exactly.
Yep. Is there other ones that I can't think of though?
Kaleo recently, and they're on my list.
Oh yeah.
I've been on that bus real hard.
Is that how we determined that they were pronounced?
No.
It's still,
We're still not sure.
to be
Well, I
determined.
heard on the radio, they said on their local station 93.9, which is Canadian, so maybe they say it differently.
Right.
They said, here's the new Kaleo single, and that's how they
So-
said it. But then when I was in Iceland, they said Kaleo, so I don't really know.
Yeah, and the only time
Damn.
I've ever heard it pronounced personally was on when I went to their website when we were looking desperately to get their first record. There was like a radio promo from Iceland on their webpage, and it was like, blah, 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 new single from Galileo.
And we've seen them twice, and I'm pretty sure they never said the name of the band.
Right,
They
yeah.
were just like, we're here, and here.
She complained about that when we saw him once, and I was like, what do you want him to do halfway through the show? Be like, oh, and by the way, it's Kaleo. You know, like...
Usually they say who they are. They are like,
Sometimes at the smaller acts at the end will say, and I'm so-and-so.
Yeah,
like
thanks.
introduce the band.
Yeah.
We're this person, and this is the guitar player, and this is, and they play a solo. Isn't that a thing?
No, I think...
And they play a solo.
Yeah.
You're like, no.
I don't think so. Kyle, can you think of anybody like that you've tried to? Or maybe like my guess for you would be like when The Weeknd was on the come up.
Oh yeah, there's three that come to the top of my head as soon as you say that is The Weeknd, Black Bear, and Jameson. Anybody who I meet and I realize that they're into music, those three or one of those three will come out of my mouth very soon after.
Right on.
And it's not. I don't give two shits who likes any of them, but I think that you should hear them so you can establish an opinion for yourself. If you don't like them, that's cool. That's
Right.
awesome, but you should definitely listen to them.
There was a time, and I wouldn't call this band underrated because they have 2 of the 5 largest selling records of all time. So I think at that point you're safely out of the underrated pool.
I would say so.
But there was a time where I was damn near like a religious person with the Bible and Pink Floyd albums, like where I would almost go door to door and be like, do you have a minute to talk about Pink Floyd? And it was when because I got into Floyd the same way everybody else did. Like I heard The Wall and Wish You Were Here and whatever. And then when I started moving on to like what I do consider to be incredibly underrated stuff by them, like The Final Cut and Animals, I like wanted to take those records door to door and be like, yeah, I know. I like you know, like you've heard of Jesus, but have you heard of like the deeper teachings? You know, like I wanted to be like, you've heard of The Wall, but you know, do you have 40 minutes to talk about Animals with me? You know, so like I say, I don't want anybody listening to be like, how the hell is he calling Pink Floyd underrated? But like I tried so hard for so long to be like, there's Pink Floyd for everybody.
So,
like, you know, because they have way different stuff than most people think they do.
I found myself doing that with Jameson's first album, and because I've actually had the opportunity to like sit down and talk with him and like hang out with him, and so like we're getting to know each other on like a personal level, which so it meant more to me like his music did. But like I would do the same thing. Like, did you know that he, you know, created the album artwork himself? He wrote, produced, and did everything. The entire record is done by him. He didn't have any help doing it. And most people are just like, okay,
right. Well, what you're running into,
really?
what you're running into there is that thing that we've had, and again, not to labor the point of people being like, you know, oh, there's nothing good out there, but music has become so disposable overall that people like you guys. Now I got 1,300 records over there, and you know, it's you grab the record and you really look it over, and you know, and the gatefold and the artwork and everything, and people used to care about that, and now like no one cares. Like if you say to someone like, oh, and he made his own artwork, they probably never even seen the artwork, because they just brought it up on Spotify and hit play or whatever, and then they close their phone or they you know, text somebody or whatever else, and they're not looking at the artwork at all.
And to go even further, the name of the album is Priscilla, and that was his ex-girlfriend's name. So like,
what's the record all about? Was he in love with her when he did it, or is it a breakup record?
You know, I think that they had broken up, but there's definitely some lovey-dovey, like grungy stuff on there. But yeah, and that's, I think, is important from the artist to get people to understand that, and then half the people don't even give a shit. Like they're just like, oh, cool, like whatever.
I always tell, just Priscilla made me think of this, but my personal favorite era of Elvis is like 79 to 73, or I'm sorry, 79, he was passed away, 69 to 73, and it's because his set lists were super creative, and he was doing a lot of stuff you would think he would do, but he was doing these songs that were just completely about like extreme heartbreak and like I really screwed up, and you know, this is over, and it was all absolutely about what was happening in his personal life, and it just went right over everybody's head. People were like, yeah, but Hound Dog though. You know, like do Hound Dog instead. You know, And so he ended up having to bring back a lot of that stuff he didn't even really want to sing because people weren't getting him artistically.
That sucks.
You know?
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks. Did you have something to add? I felt like I cut you off on accident.
No.
There was a spider, and you're still reeling from that.
No, so I just realized that I created a list this morning in Samsung Notes, froze in the middle of it, and half it's gone. So I'm trying to quickly remember things.
Oh, sweet.
So.
Well, I'm sure it'll come back to you.
Yeah. So.
If it doesn't, it was a lie, right?
For sure, then I don't actually care about them.
Yep. So who do you think, Michelle, is the most, either like the most underrated song or the most underrated artist or most underrated band of all time? Like, who is it that you think like should be enormous?
That's loaded.
And art. Just to be clear, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 that I'm gonna.
So it's not even just one.
Just like, who do you think are people that are like criminally underrated? Like, people should know more about this.
I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but the Lone Bellow. I mean, I feel like we've been door to door. We
literally have gone door to door.
We have dragged people to concerts. We have, kidnapped their ears in the car for an hour. Like, listen to this record.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that they should be way bigger than they are at this point in their careers. But due to
I will say,
of
everybody we've ever forced is a strong word.
I mean,
that we've ever played the band for, I've literally only ever had one person be like, that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, how is this not bigger?
Yeah, she played it for me, and I was like, whoa, who is that?
Almost everybody I know is every time they hear it, they're like, how are they not huge? I'm like, I don't know. You know?
They're also amazing live. I feel like they're definitely a live band. And we've taken several people to their shows and converted them over. So that's something that, if they're not for you on record,
they probably are live.
You can't help their enery.
If nothing else, the vibe in the room alone, you're like,
absolutely,
yeah, this is the greatest thing.
And everyone who's there is there for them. Like it's that they're small enough that you're not getting all these strangers who don't care. They're
except
the crowd.
at the Blind Pig show.
They were there for Anderson East.
Yeah.
Or no, that was a different show. But
still,
yeah.
But still,
yeah.
Who do you think, Kyle? Who comes to mind that should just be bigger? Because you listen to a lot of stuff that I don't want to call it underground.
I
but
would say 3/4 of the shit that I listen to is literally stuff that no one else has
either
heard of or it hasn't found yet or whatever. I'm gonna say Jameson again. He's been on the cusp of like being huge for several years now. Like if you listen to Kendrick Lamar, you've heard Jameson. He's on that album, and then no one knows. But like he was supposed to put out a record with somebody off of Kendrick Lamar's record label, who's another huge musician who I cannot think of off the top of my head right now. But that fell through. But they did an entire record together, and it never came out. And he lives in LA. He's working with all these huge musicians. He's doing these tours. Like, I don't understand how more people haven't caught on to what he is.
Do you think that that's a record label issue?
He doesn't have he's not signed to a record label.
Well, so inherently, yes. The answer. You know what I mean? No, because the industry's not paying attention to where the real
he
talent
runs
is.
White Room Records, and I don't think that it's attached to any other bigger record label. It's just him.
I mean, back in the day, there used to be the A&R guy, and the A&R guy would go out and find bands and be passionate about them and make sure that they got signed.
You're right. Yeah, that's totally true.
And make sure that they got signed, and that when they got signed, they were properly promoted and all that. And you always had a guy at the label that was like your guy, that was like your champion. And I, off the top of my head, Tom Petty, the Runaways, which inherently became Joan Jett, Kiss, and that's just real quick off the top of my head. There's 3 enormous acts that were found by A&R guys that like their records weren't going to be promoted right or whatever, and somebody made sure that it happened. You know
what's even crazier is I might have this a little skewed, so I should have definitely looked this up beforehand. But
sure.
Now that we're talking about it, I have to mention it. He did like pop music before and was signed to a record label and was like, this is not for me. I'm not doing this stuff anymore. And then totally flipped what he was doing and became Jameson. He used to run by a whole different name. I don't even know how long ago it was. It was quite a while ago. So then he like hasn't been able to get back to that, like, and maybe he has been offered to be signed by record labels. He's just like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't want to be that big though.
Yeah, and like he has a huge cult. Like the people who really like him follow him and buy all of his stuff. Obviously, he has like a huge following himself. But like the shitty part is that he barely ever comes back to Detroit. He's from Detroit. Barely ever comes back here because there's not enough people to fill the venue for him to come back here and make it worth it.
Yeah, and Jack White with the White Stripes was that way quite a bit before the stripes broke.
Yeah.
A lot of people gave Jack White a whole bunch of crap and were like, oh, you turned your back on Detroit, you're living somewhere else or whatever. And it's like, well, if you're not going to get any support here, then what's the point?
He does these huge shows at the big venues in like LA and like sells them out and does these LA.
Nice.
and tours all over, tours Europe and does all sorts of stuff. And like he's only been here I think twice. One was his debut show for his first record of him being Jameson. That's when I went to and like hung out with him and whatnot. And other than that, he hasn't been back and doesn't come back here because there's not enough support. And I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So you're kind of speaking directly to our local Detroit crowd in that people should give this guy more support. Because it's funny because, and we mentioned this before, like how many countries we've been listening to and whatever else. There may be people that are like, how the hell are you calling him underrated? You know what I mean? Because like he's big in their market or whatever.
I know that he does have a bigger following overseas, but like here, it's just not. It boggles my mind. They don't understand.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm going to take us to break. I'm moving my most underrated artist to the top of the second half.
Oh,
and
boy.
And then we're going to go on from there. Just because I know I'm going to go on for longer than I want to about this. So we'll be back in just a second. We've got plenty more to discuss.
Life on a spaceship can be boring. That's what I hear, though life aboard the Oz-9 is mostly about careening from one near disaster to the next. To fend off boredom, Gated Galaxies outfitted their ships with a number of challenges, like bombs, poisoned crew meals, and assassins. One nice thing they did, and we can only assume it was accidental, was to include the old-time Earth podcast, Grand Rapidians Play Video Games. Hosted by video game world record holders Willie, Ginger, and usually Simon, they review beers, describe video games, recommend other podcasts, and generally crack wise and have a grand old time. Not that we can enjoy any of the things they recommend, but whatever. Grand Rapidians Play Video Games, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello, I am Christy.
And I'm Leighton.
And together we are a new podcast on whiskey tasting called
Married Mash, where we discuss life, family, and pretty much anything.
Yep, and Leighton brings a new whiskey for me to try. Will we clink it?
Or will we sink it?
Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And remember,
always drink responsibly.
Indeed.
Do you enjoy video games, drinking, and attempting to solve the world's problems through ridiculous schemes? Spend some time with Zach and Josh on the Midwest Meltdown. This show was created by two friends who have spent the past 14 years telling funny stories, talking about video games, and anything else that comes to mind. They wanted to turn their passion for gaming into something they could share with others. Again, that's the Midwest Meltdown on Spotify, Apple Music, and Podbean. Check them out. They'd be happy to have you. And we're back, and we're going to get into some other things that we want to talk about as far as underrated artists, albums, and songs. And I have yet to reveal who I think is the most underrated X in a while. And you notice how I said reveal. Going to use reveal in
Going
there.
full circle here.
However, we're going to back it on up real quick because Kyle wanted to clarify some things he said regarding Jameson and with the major label album he was going to record.
He from 2008 to 2011 he was signed to Universal Motown underneath the name Christian TV, and then he was also in a group called Snow White back in the day too. But so if you go on his Wikipedia page and then you scroll down and then you read about all the stuff that he does and can do, then you wonder to yourself, how is he not bigger than what he is? Because it says occupation: singer, songwriter, record producer, engineer, mixer, music video director. Instruments: vocals, guitar, bass guitar, violin, and drums. So he does all this shit himself, and just it has gone by the wayside, it seems. I don't understand. And the person I was referring to off of Kendrick Lamar's record label that he was supposed to do an album with before is Ab-Soul. And if you're a fan of anything coming off of Kendrick, Top Dog Records or whatever, you know who Ab-Soul is. And they were supposed to put out a project, and it never happened. But yes.
So as far as mine go, I think one of the most underrated groups of all time, just from it's one of those groups that everybody knows of, but I don't think anybody gives them anywhere near the credit for as good as they are in the incredible songs they have outside of the one everyone knows, which is Culture Club. Everyone knows Karma Chameleon, a couple of people might know like Time Clock of the Heart or Church of the Poison Mind, but like they as a band are like Aaron last week was talking about like how insanely talented the guys from Duran Duran are, but you wouldn't know it because they do a lot of pop music. Culture Club as a band is like insanely talented. Like every person in the band, like Roy Hay is a hell of a guitar player. Mikey Craig is like probably the most underrated bass player of the 80s. Like no one knows that. Like it's all Boy George out in the front, and everyone knows Karma Chameleon, and that's it. And now some of it, I believe, is definitely self-imposed. Like in the late 80s, they were a complete mess, and they broke up, and then they had a false start in the 90s where they like recorded a really good comeback record, and then they like blew up due to like personal problems and stuff again. But like 2 years ago, they finally put out another new record that is absolutely fantastic, and I'm pretty sure me and the Culture Club are the only people that bought it.
I was going to say, holy shit, they're still putting out music now. I had no idea.
Dude, it's really good music, too. Now, Boy George's voice is a lot lower than it used to be, but it's every bit as soulful as it used to be. Like, even when you hear him live, they'll do the hits everyone knows, and it's all a lot lower, his voice, but it's still fantastic. Two bands that I think are cut from the same cloth, but I think a bit of better fabric than the time they're known for. Like, say what you will about late 80s rock, but you know, a lot of those bands you can lump in together, but I think two bands that don't get anywhere near the credit they should for how good of musicians they are, and the rest of their catalog outside of the one song everyone knows, is Extreme and Tesla. Everybody knows Love Song by Tesla, and that's about it. And they have...
I feel like I know more Tesla songs.
Because of me. Because I've played a lot of Tesla for you.
I feel like that's the answer to every question.
Yeah.
Because of me.
It probably is. But the band I'd like to go on in further detail about is Extreme. Like, Extreme, those four guys are so insanely talented.
They did that Wembley, Queen
Wembley
medley.
Yeah, later this week I plan to share it because, and you know, I'm going to plug this a couple more times later, but we have our Spotify playlist. More people are subscribing to that now. Like, this week's playlist is going to be a whole bunch of music that people should be listening to.
Exactly.
And I wish that there was a way to put that Queen medley on there, but it's not.
It's not on Spotify?
No, it's not. It was a televised concert, so it's not like anything that was released.
They never released it for...
No. But that clip is on YouTube. So, and I just realized we haven't really clarified what we're talking about. So,
we all sitting here know what we're talking about.
In 1991, when Freddie Mercury passed away, they arranged a massive tribute concert to him at Wembley Stadium. So it's his home court, you know, and every band that felt that they were influenced by Freddie played their own like mini set all day, and like Metallica kicked the day off, and they were promoting the Black Album, so their set was like Sandman, Sad But True, and Nothing Else Matters. You know, each band only had like 10 or 15 minutes to play, and GNR came out and did Paradise City, Knocking on Heaven's Door, because they pull Knocking on Heaven's Door out too far, so they only had time for two songs. You know, like they always make it way longer than it should be. But like Def Leppard played, and so anyways, later in the day, Queen set up and played. At the time, we all thought that was going to be the last time that the three guys from Queen were going to play together, and a different lead singer from every band filled in for Freddie on like whatever they would sound good on for the night. The show was full of amazing moments, but by far, without question, the most amazing moment of the entire day was Extreme came out, and instead of doing Extreme had their third album out and had every right to be like, we're going to do these songs to this huge television audience to promote this record. And instead, they did a insane Queen medley with their time.
What year was this?
91. So they, instead of using that opportunity to promote themselves, they used it to do exactly what they were supposed to be doing there that day.
They're the only ones who did that, right?
Absolutely. Later, everybody's lead singer came out and played with Queen, but that's different than using your time, you know? So I will, later this week, I will post that clip on our YouTube page.
I'll pin it to the top.
On our callbacks. I will post it from YouTube onto our Facebook page, but and I want to be clear, I'm not just saying, they did a good tribute one time, so they should, you know, like more people should know about them. Extreme is known for More Than Words, and that's it. And More Than Words is a fantastic song. But that record alone that it's from is loaded with amazing songs. The record that followed it, Three Sides to Every Story, I always forget the name of the record. They had a record come out in the mid-'90s where the lead single was a song called hip today. I feel bad that I can't remember the name of the album, but that record was monster. And then the one that really I'm just like blown away that it wasn't bigger deal was they had a record come out in 2002 called Saudades de Rock that is probably the best Extreme record. Like, I don't think they'll ever top it. And no one cared.
Are they still putting out records today?
They haven't put one out since then.
Since 2002?
Yeah, they've done a couple of tours.
We've ruined it.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure we all ruined it.
Yeah.
So
Do you
that's
think-
the end of the episode. Everybody think about what you did. Without music, life would be a mistake. Bye.
With like Extreme and Culture Club and the guys you're talking about, like, do you think that the reason that no one looked further into them is because back in the day the record labels were pushing those particular songs so hard that like that's all that we were exposed to?
I swear to God, I thought you were going to say exposed to listen to. And I was like, no, he's not going to say that.
Thank you for not saying that.
Well, I think it was because you made a Letterkenny reference.
Yeah.
And so, because you're not exposed to. But yes and no. For example, like Extreme, More Than Words was a huge radio thing, but the rest of their videos were played on MTV like in regular rotation.
Okay.
But yeah, I do think that, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, I do think that the public has a very short attention span for people, and when they're not spoon-fed everything, then they don't go pick it up for themselves. You know, and we could even tie that into what you're talking about in the beginning with like the album artwork and people not really caring about something. You know, if it's not handed directly to them, a lot of times people won't dig in.
That is true.
You know, so it could be any number of things. And like, you know, with the Culture Club, I'm pretty sure they're as underrated as they are because they shot their own foot, you know, as far as like keeping in the public eye and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like Extreme like tried real hard to keep up, and the thing with Extreme is, and Tesla's the same way, they're putting out good quality music. Like none of those bands does it sound like where they just sat down and they were like, oh well, I don't know, let's just push an album out. You know, they like really poured their heart and soul into a record, and it's fantastic, and then zero people cared.
Do you think that the way that nowadays where people stay in the public eye is by doing stupid shit?
Yep. You know what's funny is when you were like in the split second where you were trying to think of what to say, I was going to say the words dumb shit.
Yeah. And I know Kanye has mental health issues, but there's other things that he does, I think, on purpose to be in the public eye. And do you think that that's something that artists should be doing?
Let me preface this by saying that I adore Lady Gaga, but we all know why she stays in the public conscious.
She wore a dress of meat.
Right. She wore a dress of meat.
Half of her career is just built on causing controversy.
And what she's doing is, you know, Madonna did before her, and Ozzy did before Madonna, and whatever. And I'm not at all saying that, but yeah, I do. I definitely think so. I think that like the way people stay in the public consciousness now is by just doing dumb shit. And, you know, so you're like, okay, so let's put it this way. Dave Grohl stays in the public consciousness by
doing great things.
He's always doing nice things. And like, and you
Didn't
know,
he bring a kid on stage or
yeah,
something?
He does all the time.
He just did it. Yeah, he borrowed his daughter's drum kit to do a drum off with a 5-year-old girl or whatever.
Did he win?
Well, in my heart. I didn't watch it yet, but I'm going to guess it's one of those like, oh, you beat me, you know, like, because he's Dave Grohl and he's a super nice guy. But like everybody else that stays in the media is usually like, and I don't know why, I haven't seen him do this, but his name won't escape my brain right now. It's like if you see an article, it's like Corey Taylor reveals real feelings about Korn or whatever, you know, and you're like,
the band or the food?
The food. And then the follow-up article is about the band.
It's clickbait because you have to find out which one it is.
Exactly. But like, you know, that stuff will happen. Or Steven Adler is another one. Like the only Steven Adler, the original drummer for Guns N' Roses, the only way he stays in the media is like, you know, Steven Adler reveals feelings on Chinese democracy, you know, and then we, you know, that's how he keeps his name out there. So it's not necessarily like dumb shit as much as it is just clickbait, which clickbait is essentially dumb shit.
Yeah.
You know. So the last one that I wanted to mention, and I'm going to try real hard not to go on about this, but a band or an artist that I think it fucking puzzles me that he's not huge is Mayer Hawthorne.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
I was thinking about that today, and I feel like he's big here. Ish, no? Because he's from here?
Ish, but... Okay, so what reminded me of Mayor Hawthorne is what you were talking about with, like, the people that he's worked with.
Yeah.
This dude, on his second record, Snoop Dogg's on his second record, and no one's heard that album but me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Kendrick Lamar is on his third album.
Yeah, see?
And no one cares. Like, I've had people sit in my house and listen to his third album, when the song is called Crime. When Kendrick comes in, they're like, is this Kendrick Lamar? I'm like, yeah. Why don't I know about this? And I'm always like, why don't you know about this? You know,
I'm telling you right now.
Yeah. So earlier we talked about the public not understanding, and I have two for sure that like are number one and 1A and 1B for people not understanding things, and it just. Boy, does it! Oh man, does it make me? It really grinds my gears, as Peter Griffin would say. And I feel like you, Michelle, at least the whole genre of emo, I think that like it irritates you that people don't get it.
There's a very large part of emo music that is not good, in my opinion. But there's a lot of music who started at emo who is not emo anymore, and it just evolves. But so people judge it off of the bad.
Absolutely, I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
Well, and you know that I hate the phrase hair metal, but
Yeah.
I think people do that. I think people look at like Slaughter, and they're like, oh well, Extreme and Tesla, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like no, and so I would assume that that's got to be one of your. Big
Oh, for
ones.
sure. I mean, like, there's definitely like bands like Dashboard, that's like the definition. If you look up emo in the dictionary, there's a picture of Chris Carrabba crying. So like that is what emo is to them. But there's also a very large portion of it that's not that it's great music and yeah.
What about you, Kyle? Is there anything outside of the weekend and the VMAs that you're just like, why doesn't the public get this? Because I'm certain you're going to agree with mine. Like the two that I have, you're going to be like, oh yeah.
Now that like Black Bear has become a big thing now, but he just put out a new record and he has songs on the radio now. He also has like 6 other records that probably no one's ever heard of before.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time he's behind the scenes, so. And a lot of his music is like, if you know who Black Bear is and you know the stuff that he's putting out now, you need to go back all the way and listen to where he started and how he's gotten to where he is.
Understand
now.
the evolution of the artist, yeah.
Because he writes for a lot of other. I guarantee you that you've heard "Baby" by Justin Bieber, which I mention this all the time. He wrote that for Justin Bieber.
When you talk about Black Bear, and before anybody gets offended, I'm not making a direct comparison. I always hear shades of how Prince used to be talked about in like 81, 82. Like this guy plays everything. He wrote this that you don't know about, and then like when Prince became the Prince everyone else knows, which we'll say 84 when Purple Rain blew up, everyone forgot like the 6 years of hard work that he put in before that. Yeah. So and like to this day I can put on For You or Controversy and most people will be like, I've never heard these songs like by Prince, So Black Bear, I feel the same way.
He's had music out forever and no one. I feel like he had a core fan base of people, mostly like young girls probably. But like now he's written music for everybody, and I used to wonder like, man, how the hell does he live in this mansion, or how the hell does he have like a Range Rover and no one's even ever heard of his music? Well, it's because he's making money off of all of the other music that he's writing for everybody else.
Yep. I
would say, not that I think the people don't understand him, but like I don't understand how he's gone under the radar for so long.
Right.
I'm glad that he's now on, getting to the top of the the spectrum, and people are.
And like I say, Prince probably felt the same way, man. Till around about the time 1999 started to take off, and then Purple Rain went nuts. Prince was probably like, what the hell's going on here?
There was a time I happened upon some YouTube video that was like one of the most underrated artists that you've never heard of, and I clicked on it, and it was this dude named Gavi, and he's like a hip hop R&B kind of guy. He just put out a new album called 1984, but for like the last 10 years previous to this, he was like almost going to have a record deal like every year, and it just never panned out, and he'd been like chugging along the entire time. And he's super fucking talented, and like the amount of like on his end how frustrating that is to almost be making it all the time, and then now finally it has become he's getting there now, and it's awesome, and that album is great.
So the two that I have are in my opinion, I think that both of these albums are insanely underrated, and it's because the general public didn't understand and didn't even give them a chance. The records, one without a doubt is Chris Gaines' Greatest Hits, which is like people like just didn't understand what was happening with that. Like Garth Brooks was playing a character.
I think right now, though, you just said Chris Gaines, people are like, like, who the hell is that?
Yeah, there were whole ass media outlets that were reporting on that record. They were like, Garth Brooks lost his mind. He thinks he's this other guy. And it's
I remember that.
And we talked about this before before we went on air, like with Independence Day. Do you think, like, was there movie articles that were like, oh, Will Smith thinks he's Captain Stephen Miller. Like, he fucked up. Nope. Like, nope, he's just playing a character.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you guys, man, it's hard to find now, but if you get an original copy on CD of Chris Gaines' Greatest Hits, they put so much time and effort into that thing, because the record's called his Greatest Hits, right? Because it's about this character that's been around for like 30 years and all this stuff. And in the booklet for it, there's like fake cover art for every one of the Chris Gaines records.
That's awesome.
And then the whole story of the record is that, like, this guy was in a boy band. This guy, Chris Gaines, was in a boy band, and then he left the boy band and, like, went on his own, and then ended up getting into this, like, horrific car accident and just, like, went away from the public eye and whatever else. And so when the Greatest Hits album came out, he recorded 2 new songs for the Greatest Hits album, and that's the first anybody's heard of this guy in forever. And it's so brilliantly done that, because, like, first of all, every Greatest Hits album that comes out has 2 new songs by the band, you know what I mean, that you've never heard before. And second of all, if you listen to the record in sequence, the songs that are supposed to be off of these fake records, because there's like 2 songs from all of his fake records,
right,
those songs sound alike, but they don't sound like the other songs that are on the record. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, do you know who the primary songwriter of the Chris Gaines Greatest Hits album is?
No.
Babyface. And yet everybody found the time to, like,
Yeah.
make fun of it and be like, oh, yeah, I don't get this, so, like, this must not be good. And this record, along with my other one, the number one conversation I have with people when Chris Gaines comes up is that, well, first of all, they get to laughing, and then they go on about how all this stuff they read about how Garth Brooks was crazy and tried to put out this album as Chris Gaines. And then when I go, okay, but what didn't you like about the record? They go, oh, well, I didn't listen to it. I would challenge anybody listening to this show, listen to Chris Gaines' Greatest Hits and tell me what's wrong with it. There's nothing wrong. Every song I've ever played for you off of that record is fantastic, is it not? And it didn't even put you to sleep.
Maybe I need to go see Chris Gaines in concert.
Chris Gaines played SNL, and Garth introduced Chris Gaines on SNL. He literally stood in the middle of the stage and was like, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Gaines, and then they panned the camera over, and he was over there as Chris Gaines. I don't know.
That's awesome.
So the only thing that bummed me out was one of the 2 songs he did was one of my least favorite songs on the record. I was like, no, not that one. So
did you write him a letter?
I did. I wrote that to the Chris Gaines fan club. Yep. That's a whole other thing. The record company set up all these fan sites that, like, were supposed to be like all these people who had loved Chris Gaines for all these years and stuff. But the whole point was, it was a character.
Yeah,
he was playing a character. I think it was one of the most unique things to happen in the history of music, and this is why we can't have nice things. Like, people didn't understand it, never gave it a chance, and now it's the butt of jokes.
I don't get why people are can't wrap their head around stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
you watch that Garth documentary?
Yeah.
You know who does like the Chris Gaines record? Garth Brooks' wife.
Yeah.
This is a direct quote from the Garth Brooks documentary from his wife. Yeah, when people say they don't like Chris Gaines, I just want to punch them dead in the face. And I literally paused my DVR and was like, amen, Trisha.
And you mentioned actors a minute ago. Like, do you remember when Joaquin Phoenix did that music thing and everyone thought that he was, like, just a crazy person now? And it was all just like a joke that
it was all part of a documentary, a character that he was playing.
Yeah.
The other one, and I promise I'm not going to make this a 2-hour special going on about this one particular thing, but the record Chinese Democracy by Guns N' Roses, I think is so insanely underrated. I think it has what you would have to say is if you were going to say you have a favorite GNR song, that would be it, right? Better,
yeah.
Yeah. The big thing with Chinese Democracy is that Slash isn't on it. And
so people are like, no, thank you.
So every time you talk to somebody about Chinese democracy, everybody's got a whole, Chinese democracy, and then you're like, okay, well, what didn't you like about it? And every single time they say, oh, well, I didn't listen to it.
I don't know.
Well, by all means, don't listen to something, but then speak on it.
Yeah.
But then when you talk into people and you go, well, why didn't you listen? Oh, well, Slash isn't on it. Slash isn't on it. And here's the thing.
Who isn't on it?
Slash isn't on it. Oh, we'll get there. Slash isn't on it because Slash didn't want to be in Guns N' Roses anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like Axl. Like, there's this myth out there that Axl, like, somehow cleaned house. Like, these people quit being in GNR. And what's he supposed to do? Be like, oh, well, I don't have a Slash anymore. I guess I'll just sit at home and not be in GNR. Like, no, he went out and found some amazing musicians. Josh Freese, who, when we talked to Ocean Ship, he was talking about what an amazing drummer Josh Freese is. He played on it. Robin Fink.
Is he the one who rubs people's feet?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Robin Fink, who went from being in Nine Inch Nails to writing Better which is, you know, like if you listen to any random Nine Inch Nails song and then listen to Better, the fact that Axl got a hold of this guy that's that creative, you know, and Tommy Stinson from The Replacements, like legendary punk bass player, played the bass on all the record and really was the guy that kept the band together. And then, and I don't know if you know this or not, and I'm being serious, friend of the show, Bumblefoot, is on that record. And it's just a fantastic record. Like there's 14 songs on it. I would say there's one that I truly dislike and there's one that it's not all that great. And then other than that, it's for me.
So there are some stinkers.
Well, and I will tell you that one of the songs that I don't like, everyone but me loves. So people who like the record love this one of the songs that I don't think is all that great. But there's super picky music nerdy things with it, like it's overproduced in parts and you know it took forever. You know, like I'm not kidding you. When I started work on Chinese Democracy, like both of you were probably 4. You know, and they more or less started work on it in '96 and it didn't come out till 2008. So like
Jesus,
you know, but at the time, you know, there's like you got to deal with all the back end stuff, the legal stuff of like Slash leaving and then Duff leaving and then Matt leaving and then replacing them and all. You know, there's a ton of stuff that happened in the meantime. But either way, nobody should take that long to put out a record. But it's a fantastic record. Like when it came out, Rolling Stone gave it 4 stars out of 4. Like they were like, if you put aside all the crap, this is a fantastic rock record. And the rock press really was like, I expected all the reviews to be like, oh, Slash isn't on it, fuck this, you know. And almost all the reviews were like, this is really good, damn it, you know, like, and I was very skeptical about it. Like, I was like, there is no way this dude's going to be able to recreate GNR. I actually bought tickets to see GNR in 2002 specifically so that I could go and tell you that it was crap, you know, like, because again, I don't want to be the guy that's like, well, I'm going to speak on this without knowing what I'm talking about. And 3 songs into the show, I was like, son of a bitch, this is like just as good as the original GNR. And then they played songs from Chinese Democracy that night. I mean, it didn't come out for another 6 years, but they played the songs that night. And I remember halfway through each of the songs just being like, damn it, this is a really good song. Like, you know, this, like you're playing, you know, there's a song on the record called Madagascar. You're playing that right before November Rain, and it just fits right in. Like nobody was sitting there being like, oh, I can't wait for this to be over so they can play Sweet Child of Mine, you know? Like, and it's really, the weirdest thing is now that Slash and Duff have come back to Guns N' Roses, they still play Chinese Democracy songs on the set, which is like really weird watching Slash play on all this stuff, you know, because now he's ready to cash a check, you know?
He's ready to play again.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to talk about in this episode is one thing that me personally I think ends up in really underrated artists and songs is what I call short attention span theater. Yeah. And we talked about this earlier. I think when an artist comes out and they're the press darling, you know, or they're played on the radio a ton, and then they put out that next record, if it's not like spoon fed to people, they just fall out of public consciousness, you know? Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Like, can you think of, I know this is putting you on the spot, but can you think of artists that like made a big deal when they came out and then just, they're still active, but no one really cares about it?
Pass. Well, I have to think about it.
Okay. Kyle, can you think of anybody like that? You're never going to believe this. I have 3 examples.
There's tons, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I would argue Eminem's that way. I think once that cat got past, like when Revival came out, we cared. And nobody really cared all that much about his later material. They still don't. You know, like his latest record is, you guys were telling me you think it's one of his best records he's put out. How many people do you know really, really listen to that record?
Yeah, I don't know anybody that's really listened to that record.
You know, I like one for me, which is insane, but it's true, is like later Michael Jackson material. Like, this dude was, like, on top of the goddamn world. Everything he touched turned to gold. And then, in my opinion, his 2 best records, History and Invincible, no one knows anything from those records.
Yeah,
like, people know Scream, and they know they don't care about us from History. And then when I play Invincible and You Rock My World comes on, people are like, oh, I know this song. But, like, other than that, nobody knows those records. And they're fantastic records.
Yeah, History. I used to be fascinated by that because it's a double disc CD. So I was like, oh, like, this is awesome. Yeah. My mom had it, and that's how I ended up listening to it.
It's everything that people loved on one disc and everything that people should love on the second disc. And then another one for me is later Black Crowes. Like, the Black Crowes, everyone knows their first 2 records, and then they also have another 6 or, you know, another 5 past that. And every one of their records is better than the last one. Their 5th record is arguably just okay. But their 3rd record is incredible. Their 4th one is incredible. I remember I used to go see the Crowes in like 99, 90, you know, 2000, 2001 in concert. People would be like, oh, who are you going to see tonight? And I'd be like, the Black Crowes. And they'd be like, they're still around? Yeah, but it's just not being forced on you on like the radio and MTV. And when they do play the Black Crowes, they're playing "She Talks to Angels" or "Hard to Handle." You know, their new material doesn't even get a chance.
I will say that when you mentioned Eminem, I like the fact that he's like not mainstream anymore. So that like he just shock drops a bunch of shit, and like, it makes me excited when like random stuff pops up, or like when I'd seen that he was on the end of the Big Sean album. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. Well, and the thing, Eminem is a bad example overall because he's got the respect. Like you know what I mean. Like, but when I'm talking about like Extreme and Tesla and that, like people just don't even think of them as like anywhere near talented. They're like, oh, isn't that the More Than Words guys? And I'm always like, there's a lot more to that band than freaking More Than Words, you know?
Yeah.
And like I say, Chinese Democracy, like everybody's got a Chinese Democracy joke and no one's bothered to listen to it to even know if their joke is valid, you know? Like I wouldn't be able to do that with any other subject.
Right.
You know, like I wouldn't be able to go out and say something about a sports team and have no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like I guess maybe for a lot of people, Brand New started and ended with Deja and Tendu. Maybe they started with Your Favorite Weapon, but nobody, I bet anybody who's heard of Brand New, you know, and is not keeping up with them, it was like, what do you mean Daisy? They're still putting out records?
That's probably true.
And I guess that would be the only one that I could think of. But there's a lot of them that I can think of that I don't know if it's because they're not being spoon-fed or they're just old. Like, when you initially asked me, I thought of Hootie and the Blowfish because I didn't even know they had that last record come out. But they've also been around forever. So, like, is it because they're just in the air supply at this point, or is it because I'm not being spoon-fed?
I think Hootie is a promotion thing. Like nobody promoted that for whatever reason.
Yeah, I was shocked that Hootie, not Darius Rucker, who puts out his own stuff. Like Hootie and the Blowfish had a new record come out. Like, what was it, this year?
It was
last year.
It was in 2019. I think. Yeah,
like no idea. And what has helped me a lot though is every Friday they have New Release Fridays on Spotify, and I go there, and every Friday there's something I'm shocked that I'm like that's a thing still. Like they're putting out music, and every time.
So you're the person I'm mad at.
I am that person. You're welcome.
The last one that I want to touch on, and by all means, anything else you guys have to mention as well, please. But one that it goes in with the Tesla and Extreme thing that I was talking about earlier. But Warrant, the band Warrant, from their third record on, it is the same dudes. Way better music than was on their first two records, and all they're known for are those first two records. Like their third album, Dog Eat Dog, and then Belly to Belly and Ultraphobic. All three of those records, I firmly believe, and I say this like all the time, and it's true in every year. Here now in 2020, if you released any song off of those three Warrant records to the radio and just didn't say or gave them a different name, it would be an enormous ass hit. But because it's got Warrant on the cover, people were like, "Oh, Cherry Pie guys." And anytime I've talked to people, it's the same thing as Chinese Democracy, where I'll go, why did you fall off with Warrant? Oh, well, I didn't bother listening to the later stuff. Well, then, you can't really talk about it then. That
really sucks for them too, because they had the enormous success off of Cherry Pie, but then everyone just didn't give a shit about anything else they put out after it because it wasn't Cherry Pie.
Yeah, and that and Cherry Pie is the real Slim Shady of its time.
Yeah.
Where the Marshall Mathers LP2 or LP1 was finished and turned into the record label, and the record label was like, "Oh, this is way too dark. Like we need we need a My Name Is on this record."
Yeah.
So Eminem went back and threw the real Slim Shady together to put it on the record to make it a thing. And so Warrant, the second record, was actually called Uncle Tom's Cabin, and the whole record was themed around that song. Other than the song Cherry Pie, their second record is a giant step forward, songwriting wise and talent wise. Mm-hmm. And then the record label was like, "Yeah, but we need like the TNA song though. Like where's the where's the party song on this?" So Janie Lane, like according to him, within 10 minutes wrote Cherry Pie. It was just like, throw this on there, and it was just supposed to be on the record. And then they turned around twice, and like the record was called Cherry Pie, and that was like the cover has like his girlfriend on the cover and all that, and he was just like, what? And then that became the difference between Warrant and Eminem forks in the road there, because Eminem was fortunate enough to where, well, first things first, real Slim Shady is a decent track, and second of all, the rest of that record is known for as good as it should be. Like Stan is known as legendary, Kim is known as legendary, the title track, Cleaning Out My Closet, all that stuff. That's on Eminem Show, but anyways, you know what I'm saying. Warrant, nobody even knows how good the rest of that one record is, let alone the rest of it, because they got screwed by the record label being like, well, why don't you put this here? Let me tell you how last minute the song Cherry Pie is. The guitar solo in Cherry Pie is not even played by a guy in Warrant. Poison was recording their record next door, and the guitarists from Warrant weren't there, and they needed to finish it, so they grabbed the guitar player from Poison, and he's playing the solo on that song. So anytime you ever hear that song on the radio, it's not Joey Allen from Warrant playing it; it's the guy from Poison, CeCe DeVille's playing that solo.
That is so
That's
weird.
how last minute that song was to get it. And then they turn around twice, and it's now the cover and the theme of the whole record. And there's a chick on the front dropping pie, conveniently placed.
So that must have been a good payday for CeCe DeVille then.
Yeah, well, I would imagine.
An accidental payday.
I'm guessing they paid him in drugs.
Yeah, probably.
Given what
How do I
happened.
get paid in drugs?
Yeah. Wait, you don't know that's how you get paid for the show?
I'm owed a lot of drugs. Then.
Yeah, we got drugs for you. Is there anybody you can think of from short attention span theater, like, where people just really cared about a band when they came out and then just kind of fell off from?
This is going to sound weird because he's constantly everyone's talking about him,
But not for his music?
Not good reasons.
I know what you're
going to
say. I was going to say, you're going to say Easy.
Yeah, because I actually, before I say anything, I encourage anyone to go on YouTube and watch in-person interviews, like when he's on, like I just watched one the other day where he's on Nick Cannon's podcast on YouTube.
Speaking of which, why isn't Easy come on here yet?
Yeah, he should come on here.
Yeah, go on.
I don't like Nick Cannon at all, but because Kanye West was talking to him, I wanted to hear what he had to say.
Yeah.
And it was posted 4 days ago. It's relevant to everything that everyone's been talking about, him running for president, him saying that North should have been aborted, and all this crazy shit that comes out because he has bad Twitter fingers.
Is that a medical condition? Like
Yes.
Okay.
It's not. Let's not make fun of it. I had a friend diagnosed with bad Twitter fingers.
That sounds dirty.
But if you listen to Kanye West talk in an interview, what you perceive him as outside of being a musician is totally different than the person that he is. I get defensive over somebody I don't even know because like I'm a super huge fan of his, and like he does dumb shit all the time, but like he is not. He's painted to be this dipshit. Yeah. When he is a super smart, intelligent, excellent musician. And after what? After Watch the Throne, when he did it with Watch the Throne with Jay-Z. Mm. After that, people were just like, oh, well, I don't care about you anymore.
Yep. What's weird about Kanye is, and what's different from some of the artists that I've talked about, is like the build-up to his releases is usually big, and then when it happens, no one really talks about it at all. Like,
did he ever release that record? He just released on the same day as Taylor Swift?
No, there's still that's actually what pisses me off is that like the build up, which is the unfortunate thing that like Guns N' Roses fans have to deal with all the time. It's like, oh, this is going to come out, and then it never does. It's like that. I don't.
Well, then I'm going to forget about you.
Yeah, I just please, if you're going to release something, just release it. I don't care.
Like I don't have a problem with like it being scheduled and then actually like releasing. But or a surprise release, but like to keep delaying things.
And that is absolutely what GNR fans deal with constantly. Yeah. It's like, oh, we're going to release something someday, and we're always like, oh, okay, sweet.
Well, something's coming soon.
I think people don't give Kanye West a fair chance anymore because of all of the shit that he says and does, and that has nothing to do with his music or like. I mean, he runs a very, very successful fashion line, has one of the most successful shoes that Adidas has ever put out in the entirety of Adidas since they've existed. So people don't give him the credibility that he actually should have within the music industry.
And that lends itself well to, I don't know where it is on our topics list, but we have an episode scheduled sooner than later where we're going to talk a lot about like the persona versus the person versus the artist and whatnot. And I feel like names like Kanye, Axl, Courtney, like those names are going to come up a great deal. So
there's people who no matter what they do, it's going to be wrong. So they just do whatever they want, and he's one of those people. Like, he doesn't give a shit what anyone thinks. So no matter what he says, it's going to be Kanye did this, Kanye did that, Kanye said this. He didn't put out music. He put out music. It sucked. It was great. It doesn't matter. It sucks.
So that was a whole lot of our thoughts on underrated artists and songs and whatnot. I feel like this is one of those topics that, like, I almost came into this with the intention of, like, trying to shave it down some. So I
have a whole list of people we didn't even talk about.
So I feel like we definitely need to revisit this.
Yeah.
Maybe not make it a quick, like a two-parter, but yeah.
And maybe on the playlist we can put what is on our list so people can actually just hear underrated music that we're listening to. Yeah.
It's funny that you've prompted me for this, Kyle, but the next thing I was going to talk about is later today or early tomorrow, our playlist will be updated with the people, like songs and artists and albums that we've talked about on this episode. But I definitely want to revisit this in the future because I think there is a ton of stuff that people need to be hearing that. And to be clear, this isn't just like, oh, this is what we like, and so it must be good. It's just like all we hear all the time is people being like, oh, there's no good rap, there's no good rock, there's no no good R&B. Like, yeah, there is. If nothing else, at least give this stuff. Don't be the guy that goes, oh, well, I didn't listen to that, but I'm still going to say it's bad, I mean, there's stuff like Van Halen 3, that record's just terrible. Like, I listened to it, that's just a bad album, like, so, like, I don't encourage anybody to go listen to that, but there's also underrated stuff in their catalog, too, that most people wouldn't bother listening to. So, having said that, please make sure you do subscribe to and listen to the Spotify playlist, especially this week. I think most people that would listen to this week's playlist are probably going to hear a whole lot of stuff they've never heard before, and will be quite surprised.
Yeah, and like I said, I still have a list that I only touched like 3 names off of out of like 20. So we can just.
Oh, damn! I'm sorry.
No. Like, it's too hard to like fit them in to talk about them because there's not like. I don't have any like backstory about them or like it's just people that I know that no one else knows of.
Do you want me to give you like a minute to just say everyone's name? I'm just kidding.
No, but what we can do is we can just add these guys like the songs that I like off of their albums to the playlist,
so people
can hear them and form their opinion about them.
Makes sense. Okay, so for next week we have as of right now we're planning to have an in studio guest for next week who is not an artist or hasn't played in front of 100,000 people, but is a friend of ours. We're going to have in studio for a guest spot, and we're going to be doing a Beatles special, which should be fun. Now, we're not going to try and cover everything to do with the Beatles all at once because it's entirely too much to cover, but we are going to hopefully bring to light some cool stuff that everybody likes about the Beatles. So having said that, we will wrap this up. Thank you so much for the continued support and the big warm welcome back from season 2.
Yeah.
That is sweet. So look forward to the playlist and look forward to next week's Beatles special. Bye.
Bye. The Infectious Groove podcast is hosted by Russ Robinson, Kyle Wimple, and Michelle Koselecki. Produced and edited by Russ Robinson. Intro and outro music composed by Chris Kimmel. Opening credits read by Stacey Robinson. Recorded with a Rode Podcaster Pro and Rode Pod mics.